Leaders all the way, playing proper football, the Sheff United way. Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole, ole.
Welcome to the Sheff United Way. You've already seen our chats with Benjamin Bloom, the Second Tier podcast, and today we are interviewing another content creator who loves his deep dives and has done plenty of them on Sheffield United. Here for another episode of Unbiased Blades, 𝗍𝗫𝗄𝗿. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing quite good, mate. How are you?
I'm very, very good, thank you. And to say that you're unbiased, we can clearly see you've got some shirts in the background. Do you want to just explain just for a minute who you support?
Yeah, I'm a cheeky little Burnley fan. Season ticket for a good 8, maybe 9 years, but I am very, very unbiased. I won't let my Burnley bias seep through. I promise.
To be fair, I wouldn't have had you on the channel if I didn't think you were unbiased, because I've watched all of your videos on Sheff United, and you have said a lot of nice things about us and Chris Wilder in the past. So
I think I'm quite guilty for going over the top with how nice I am about teams. I feel like I need to kind of tone it down. I think every team in the league I've called someone the best player in the league or someone the best manager in the league. I'm quite bad for it.
Well, there's so much negativity on YouTube and on the internet. It's nice to be nice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right. So, Jacob, let's start with a really interesting question. I love asking this question. So what are your memories of Sheffield United whilst being a Burnley fan? I'll be honest, I might look young, but I'm certainly a lot older than you. So we might have a different opinion of kind of the times, but what is your opinion on Sheffield United kind of throughout your football watching life?
I think just to get the little dig in there, first one I remember is 𝗬𝗿𝗏𝗍. You know, it was a decent one, wasn't it? My granddad's actually got that shirt from that game signed on his wall of 𝗬𝗿𝗏𝗍.
Wow.
After that unbelievable goal. But no, all round, I feel like for the most part, like I'm trying to think of my recent memories. Obviously, it's not been great lately, but like there was kind of a good spell where you were pushing, you were kind of like in that kind of bracket of being like the Brentford, the Bournemouth that are there now, as in you were pushing, doing quite well, pushing top half, had these crazy tactics that everyone was loving, like like 𝗬𝗿𝗏𝗍 Iraola at Bournemouth with these kind of new tactics about going really direct and all that stuff. Sheffield United were kind of the same. You had the overlapping centre halves. It was just really good vibes. I've always thought Sheffield United as being like not necessarily the same vibes as like a Bournemouth or a Brentford, who are a smaller club, but it always felt really positive, and obviously past 2-3 seasons now have been pretty poor for Sheff United. Obviously we've kind of just hugged each other the whole way, both going up and down together. But yeah, I think it has kind of been a poor time for Sheff United lately. And I wouldn't say these are necessarily a yo-yo club since I've been, from what I can remember, but as of late, I feel like it's been a bit poor. I kind of always seen he's a big club, but not necessarily a consistent club.
No, it's funny you should say that because, yeah, you are right. We've had some really poor seasons in recent memory. But when I started supporting Sheff United, I think we spent about 15 seasons in the Championship. So we were a Preston. We were absolutely a Preston. Yeah. And we didn't even get close to the playoffs at certain points. So this right now, being a bit of a yo-yo club, is probably a good thing for us and people who remember those times of kind of being, a Championship club for such a long time, then going up and then ended up in League One for 6 seasons. So, we've certainly been through the ringer. But I think this is, even though we've had some poor Premier League seasons, we've certainly done better than Sheffield Wednesday in recent years, anyway. Well, actually, what I need to mention, it's way before your time, but we've talked about kind of Sheffield United Burnley memories. Sheffield United fans will not let me forget talking about Lee Baxter, right? Lee Baxter was a goalkeeper for Sheffield United in the early 2000s, I want to say, and he conceded 3 goals in the first half at Turf Moor and was never seen ever again. So that is a little bit of something to take away. He was that bad that 3 goals conceded, got subbed off at half time, and then I don't even know if he went back to training after that. He was just bombed out forever.
To be fair, what I didn't see, you seem to have a trend of having god-awful goalkeepers up until about this season.
All really good goalkeepers. Paddy Kenny were a fantastic
Yeah,
goalkeeper.
to be
Dean
fair, you've had
Henderson, fantastic goalkeeper on loan.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing in the middle. They're either
No.
terrible or they're really good. So at the start of this season, you've done a lot of deep dives on the Blades, as I mentioned earlier on. You did some last season as well. But what did you expect from Sheffield United this season for those that haven't watched your videos?
I think a lot of people went over the top with kind of the things they were saying about Sheffield United. I said that I thought you would comfortably get into playoffs. I think if I remember correctly, I think I did. And I said that a lot of people were going over the top. A lot of people were saying, I know a few people that I know, my mates and stuff, like 15th, bottom half, all that stuff. And I just couldn't see that happening. I knew Sheffield United were going to be in for a big rebuild. It was going to be tough. Obviously, the kind of unknown about the new ownership and all that stuff going on. And it was always going to be hard. Like, it was never going to be a perfect season. You were never going to come down and run away with it. Like a lot of people kind of hope when they come down. But I did think you would be okay. I thought you'd get playoffs, maybe not come straight back up, but you'd build and look for the future, which I think some of you kind of did, really. You brought in a lot of good first-team players, kept a hold of a lot of good players like Sousa, Harmer, and players like that. And then now in January, you've kind of plugged the gaps that you need to plug in terms of bringing some more squad players in. And I think I said that. I think you were always going to be in for a massive summer, big squad overhaul. It was going to be a tough job for Wilder. But you know what? You've kind of overdone even my expectations. I thought you would get top 6, but you've kind of, well, you have. You've got the joint most points in the league if you win your game in hand, avoiding the points deduction. So yeah, I think you've blown my kind of expectations out of the water. But I never thought you would be awful. I always thought you'd be there or thereabouts coming in the season.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple of points that I'm going to come on to in a second. So what did you reckon to our rebuild? Because obviously, again, you've done a video on the rebuild, but for those that haven't seen it, you need to go and watch it first and foremost. But if you could give us just a couple of bits from that, because there was a lot of players that went out, a hell of a lot of players, way more players than what came in. So we were already on a bit of a threadbare squad. Did you think that the rebuild was as good as it should have been?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best ways you could have done it. I'm looking at the list now of people that you sold, and if we're honest, right, there's a lot of dead wood here, isn't there? In terms of people that were playing a lot of games last season who are nowhere near the level. The only real sizable one I can see off the top of my head of scrolling out, I'll probably miss someone, is maybe someone like Jayden Bogle. And obviously Archer went and he would have been good, but he was never really going to stay for the championship season. But yeah, probably Jayden Bogle was the only thing that you could possibly have asked for you to do a little bit better in. But in terms of start 11, bringing players in, 𝗬𝗏 I thought was a phenomenal loan. Players like Harry Souttar, obviously he's injured now. He's been recalled or something, hasn't he, to deal with that. But I thought that was a good time. Harrison Burrows, I was a massive, massive fan of. And he's taken a step up quite well. Obviously not as good going forward this season, but he was always going to have that drop off. O'Hare as well. I was desperate for Burnley to sign him. I thought that was a really good sign. I was honestly thinking maybe a lower half Prem team could have gone for him. But I think that's been a good signing. And I honestly think that, I mean, even Michael Cooper, man, 1.1 million euros, it says here on FOTMob. That is unbelievable. But yeah, I do think that you did quite well. There probably could have been a little bit more you could have done in terms of getting them squad players in. But you've kind of done that now, bringing in Clark, Chowdhury, other players like that. But yeah, I think you did really, really, really well. And like I said, it was always going to be a tough ask, but I thought you managed it quite well.
Yeah, I'm trying not to say too much to you because I want to find out from somebody that's not a Sheffield United fan, because obviously we don't expect you to know absolutely everything about Sheffield United because I don't know that much about Burnley. But obviously you've got a bit of an interest in Championship clubs and doing deep dives. I've said deep dive so many times in this, so I apologise. Is there another way that I can say deep dive without saying deep dive?
Snorkeling.
What do you call them? What do you call them? Do you call them a deep dive?
Tactical breakdown, deep dive, whatever. Talking crap, yeah, whatever.
Tactical breakdown sounds really, really good. But yeah, so in regards to what you're saying about plugging the gaps, I agree. I think that we've done that this January. It's just they've got it all gelled together. And I know we've never really brought a lot of players in January. But what do you reckon to some of the players that we've brought in? So I'll run through a couple of them with you. So that obviously you're not having to remember them. So Ben Brereton Diaz, Tom Cannon, Hamza Chowdhury, Harry Clark, Rob Holding. And I'm going to say, I've said this over and over again, 2 new wingers, because the foreign wingers that have been selected by AI, which is just the least Sheffield United thing I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, we'll put the 2 wingers that are development players, we think, to one side. What do you reckon? Who's a big signing for us, or a statement signing in those that I've just mentioned?
I feel like Thomas Cannon has to be kind of just purely for the fee. And although I don't agree with it in terms of how much you've spent, I think it's massively, massively overpriced. I would have said 6 million, 7 million tops. But if you strip away the price tag and look at it in terms of a player that you needed, a profile that Chris Wilder needed, I think it makes a lot of sense. And that, if you take away the price tag, it's a top signing. But obviously the price tag kind of, for me, drags it down a little bit. Brereton Diaz, I'm not the biggest fan of. But obviously for use, he's done really, really well. And bringing someone back, even if it's, I feel like people overlook the importance of environment in football. He obviously didn't do too well at Southampton in a poor environment. He came in, whereas at Sheffield United, I believe he came in the January window, didn't he? Which he was coming into, yes, a poor environment, but it was kind of that new fresh air. He needed to come away from the club he was at. He went to Sheffield United, a team who needed him. And I feel like him coming back, even if he doesn't do that well, just getting the fans going. The fans are going to be happy every time he gets on the ball, every time he comes on. You're going to be buzzing about it. So I think that's a really good sign as well. And you needed the winger depth. You really did. I also think 𝗲𝗲 𝗕 is a really nice signing. I think it makes so much sense. Versatile. Again, when we go back to the kind of plug in the gap type of thing, he's versatile, really good. Harry Clark as well, really good signing as well. Again, plug the gap, can offer you depth at right back and centre half. And then Rob Holding, I think, he's kind of gone on the radar. It's actually a top signing. Like, I think Tanganga, which you were linked with for briefly, I believe, on deadline day, would have been, great, but it would have cost you a nice little fee. Whereas Rob Holding brings you a lot of experience. He's still a good centre half in the Championship, despite him not playing much for Palace. And I think people kind of look at it's Rob Holding, it kind of has this kind of joke about him, doesn't it? He does. He has that reputation for being a bit of a laugh on social media. I think he is actually a good signing, a really good signing for a promotion chasing side. So I think a lot of these signings are good. Spent a bit of money, maybe on Thomas Cannon, it's a bit of an overpay, but if it gets you promotion, it's probably worth it. I don't think he's going to go and score you 15 odd goals, but he'll get you close to double digits, which is a big kind of plus for you, because I think in the summer that's the only thing that you really kind of swung and missed at.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to find out I don't know if you know many Sunderland fans, because I know that you live in those sorts of parts. I don't know what did Sunderland fans think of the whole Tom Cannon situation, because obviously they were in for him as well. It looked like we were going to be paying roundabout what you'd expect, kind of like a 6 or 7 million. And then it came in that the reports were that Sunderland had bombed a big bid in there, and we were like, oh no. I don't know whether that happened or not. But Sunderland fans seemed very, very excited about the fact that he was coming in. But I was actually, when I heard about that big offer from Sunderland, I was thinking, well, he's not worth that. And I was tweeting about that, saying he's definitely not worth that. And then we go and do it. I was just, what is going on? So from a Sunderland perspective, what was that whole kind of transfer negotiations like from their point of view?
Well, a couple of my mates are Sunderland fans, and I was speaking to them about it, and they wanted him because I feel like Sunderland over the past few years have needed a striker, but in my opinion, it wouldn't have even been worth paying the 6 million for them with 𝗲𝗏𝗔 𝗔. But a lot of them wanted him, and then that big reported 10 million bid, and a lot of them were like, "Oh, this is not a good signing. This is not what we need for that type of money." And I think I said it as well. A little bit like I had egg on my face, because I said, "I'm really glad Burnley aren't involved in this." And then I literally think, as I pressed tweet, someone went, "Burnley are stepped up the chase," and I was like, "Oh, great." But yeah, I think, like I said, man, if you strip away the price tag, it's a top sign. It's what you needed. He'll score your goals. He's perfect for the kind of Chris Wilder kind of mentality, the play style, all that jazz. He can do a bit of everything as well, and he scores a couple of goals. But it's just the price tag is kind of the glaring issue with it, isn't it? But like I said, you go up, you get 100 odd million, 10 million. It's not that much, is it really?
No, definitely not. And if he carries on scoring goals, then that price tag is going to follow him. It's not going to decrease that. It's not going to decrease as much as Ryan Brewster's has in the last few years, anyway, put it that way. But we won't talk about that price tag. You did touch on Chris Wilder and the mentality in the dressing room and stuff like that. I do feel like a lot of the transfers that we've brought in do feel like Chris Wilder signings. Obviously, most of them are at least born in England. Like we've got a few. Chowdhury is a Bangladeshi international, obviously born in Loughborough. Tom Cannon, born in this country as well. He's plays for Republic of Ireland, etc. They're all kind of Chris Wilder signings. They all speak the language, and they all see it. Like Harry Clark, for instance, Ipswich fans absolutely adore him. Rob Holding, like you say, seems like a good guy in the dressing room as well as a good footballer. I want to know, though, after all that monologue, I want to know, what do you think of Chris Wilder? Because there's a lot of fans that dislike him that aren't Sheffield United fans.
I think it's a tough one because it's like, again, I kind of come back to the idea about environments. You know, he's failed at other clubs, but I feel like him and Sheffield United just feel right. You know what I mean? I feel like they kind of go hand in hand in terms of, I associate with Sheffield United with being that kind of overachieving club slightly over the past few years anyway. Well, not past few years, you know, if we go back to maybe 2011, 2012 onwards, I feel like I kind of see them as being a bit of an overachieving. I feel like Chris Wilder kind of embodies that a little bit. He wants that hard work. I feel like Sheffield United fans appreciate that kind of hard work on the pitch. And like you said, a lot of the players that he's brought in are all kind of players that will run through brick walls if they need to, like Harry Clark especially. And I just think he's a good manager. He's a good championship manager. I don't think he's necessarily out of this world in terms of the tactical kind of display that he puts on, but man management, from what it kind of appears to be, because obviously we're never going to know what he's like behind closed doors in terms of how he manages his players. But to me, it feels like, and when you see the team and stuff, that he's a really good man manager, and he gets a lot of the best things out of players. And to be fair to him, I feel like he's grown a little bit since he was left at Sheffield United, and grown from when he was at Middlesbrough. He's a bit more adaptable now. I feel like he's changed things up slightly at times this season. And yeah, I think for the Championship, he's one of the best you're going to get. Premier League, maybe you want someone a bit different, but I feel like in the Championship, he's one of the best you can ask for.
Yeah, I agree. Lots of people thought he was a dinosaur, and he's completely past it. And I can see why people would, maybe not the dinosaur bit. I think that's complete over. It's sort of like a social media buzzword that people use dinosaur for someone who they think's past it. And I think I could see why people would say that he's past it or whatever, or the better days are behind him, because he did have a. I actually thought his Middlesbrough spell in the first season was pretty decent, because we were going sort of head-to-head with Middlesbrough that season in trying to sneak into the playoffs, because Middlesbrough, same with Forest had a terrible start. We had a terrible start. Middlesbrough, I believe, had a terrible start because Wilder came in. So I thought that he had a really good start with Middlesbrough. He just missed out on the playoffs. And then the second season obviously was an absolute... You know, it was a terrible, terrible time for him.
Well,
and then wasn't much.
There was
better.
reports that he'd had his head turned by the Burnley job, wasn't there? That,
I wasn't going to mention that because I have heard a fair few things about that.
It was like, I remember, it was actually really random. And obviously, probably wasn't true. I was on the train, actually. And I was going to London. I think Burnley might have been playing, maybe in London. And I think I was going on away day or something like that. I might not have even. I know I was on a train. And some bloke sat down and he's like, oh, yeah. Chris Wilder's like someone to do with Chris Wilder. He knew him and he was like, oh yeah, he's going for an interview for the Burnley job. And I was like, this just random bloke just chimed in. I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, but I feel like, again, it comes back to the environment stuff again, doesn't it? You know, like if he was at Sheffield United, would that even stuff have even came out? Even if it wasn't true, would the stuff about him reportedly going for an interview when it even came out? It probably wouldn't, would it? But it's because he was at someone like Borough where he didn't really have that connection that it was kind of pushed out, I think.
Yeah, maybe. The thing is, at that point, you guys were a Sean Dyche side, weren't you? Which might have actually fit Wilder a little bit more than when, you know, Vinny Company went there and changed it all up. So it could have actually worked for you, and it could have worked for him. But obviously, it hasn't. Now we're back here, and he's back being the Sheffield United manager. So I've watched all your videos on Sheffield United and the title race as well. I watched that one. I think it was about a month ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, you should still go and watch it. But spoiler alert, you said you thought Sheffield United were going to finish fourth out of the four. 4-horse race, you had us finishing fourth. Right. However, I'm going to caveat that with, you mentioned if Sheffield United bring in the bodies, then it might be a different story. We've brought in the bodies. What are you thinking? Where are you thinking Sheffield United are going to finish this season after the transfer window's slammed shut?
Funnily enough, I did just do my championship prediction video literally just before I came on here. But
when's that going out?
Tomorrow.
That's fine. Then this ain't going out straight away, so you can tell us on here now.
You can spoil it. But yeah, what's it called? I think with Sheffield United, it's like I was and I still am really unsure between that whole race for the top two. I feel like Leeds are going to run away with it. Maybe 10 points. They'll probably win it by between them and second. But in second place, I think I spent 5 minutes just sat there trying to think because I can see the kind of arguments for all three sides in Sunderland, Burnley, and Sheffield United getting there. You've kind of got Sunderland with this young squad who are hungry, who have, for me, one of the best managers in the league. I think he's really, really good in terms of how he gets the best out of his players. And they've got some quality now as well. You know, likes of 𝗍𝗍𝗍, probably the best player in the league. He's sensational. And then you look at Burnley, and as much as Burnley aren't good going forward, if you concede 9 goals at this stage in the season, you're going to be there or thereabouts come the end of it, you know, like, and Burnley aren't even conceding chances either. I think Trafford's conceded something like an XG of 18. I know not everyone likes that stat, but they've not conceded much. And he's made save when he's been asked to, like Cooper has as well for Sheffield United. But Burnley are going to be there thereabouts. Sheffield United then. And I feel like for me, they're one of the weirder sides in the division, partially in terms of, I feel like, performance-wise, quite inconsistent. In terms of results, it is still really consistent. You still usually get it over the line, which I think is what I said it with Middlesbrough. They're someone who's inconsistent in performances and don't get the results. But with Sheffield United, performances aren't always great, but I do feel like you always back them to get it over the line. But
do you know what? You've absolutely hit the nail on the head, and I think most Blades fans will agree with you. It almost like feels like we try and go 1-0 up and then shut up shop a little bit. So we could go more expansive, but we choose not to. Yeah, so I think Wilder's just concentrating on getting the 3 points week in, week out.
It can be frustrating. I mean, Parker's the exact same, but I feel like with Sheffield United, it's a credit to them, though, is in terms of even though they aren't necessarily always brilliant, they turn results over as if they are playing out of this world. But saying that, after the month of January, I didn't expect Sunderland to strengthen in the way they did, to be honest. I did not expect 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 to arrive there. I'm still really stuck, but I think I said with Sunderland getting second, and then it's a toss-up. I can't decide. It's a toss-up between Burnley and Sheffield United for third, I think. Like,
really? You're going Sunderland second?
I don't know. It's wild. Tough. I genuinely have no idea. Like, I could go either way. I think if you asked me in an hour, I'd probably say Burnley. If you asked me in 2 hours, I'd probably say Sheffield United. It's just like, I just don't know.
Do you know what? I respect that you've not come onto a Sheffield United channel and just said Sheffield United are going to win the league or come second. I respect that. I actually think that it depends how the signings gel.
I also think yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, it's your video. I
think as well, when I looked at it, Sheffield United and Leeds have the hardest fixtures coming out. And they're not necessarily ridiculous, but Sheffield United do have Leeds to play and Burnley to play, don't they? Whereas Sunderland, I believe, just have Leeds at Ellen Road, where I think that could be, although it's only 3 points, could be a little bit of a difference maker. I think that went into my thinking a little bit.
It could be. I think it just depends on consistency for me, to be perfectly honest. I think Leeds have fallen apart a lot. I'm not saying they're going to, and I'm not going to sing the song, but I do feel like one of the three will fall apart a little bit. Maybe a couple of injuries to key players, or maybe a couple of performances where they were underwhelming. I just feel like one of the four, it will fall apart. It just depends on consistency for me. I think the thing is, we don't have as favourable fixtures as you, but I'm trying not to date this video, but we are recording this before the Sheffield United Portsmouth game. We are 3 points behind you. Sorry, we are bang on points with one game in hand. Yeah. So that could be 3 points in front of you. So it's so tight. It's going to be, I think it'll go down to the wire. I really
That's what I mean. Like, it's a hard. Like, I can't make my mind up, to be honest. I'm just going off pure. I mean, like you said there, I didn't even think about the injuries. You know, if Burnley lose a centre half, that could be them. Trafford picks up an injury. I know 𝗍𝗍𝗲 would have to come in, but he's nowhere near the level of James Trafford. And I feel like, you could possibly say the same about Sunderland or Sheffield United as well. If, Sheffield United pick up a big injury to, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, maybe a Harmer or Cooper picks up an injury, something like that could derail it. Sunderland lose a Job and an 𝗍𝗲𝗲 or lose a Chris Metham or something like that. And it could go up in the air. I'm telling you, Leeds will win with 3 games to go, something like that. And I think the second place will go to the last day.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. One way.
Yeah, it's going to be a good end.
So there we go. So you've gone for, just to confirm, you've gone Sunderland second. Is that right?
Yeah, go on then. I really undecided, man.
You got to put your neck on the block, and I respect it. I really do.
You know what? Scrap that. Burnley in second. Come on, we'll do it.
I'm going to say you've got to.
I've got to. Burnley in second.
You've got to go tribal. You've got to go for your own.
You've got to do it.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I've really enjoyed this chat, this unbiased Blades chat. If anybody doesn't know where to find your stuff, would you just like to let them know now?
Yeah, just Jacob Horsefall on anything. No E in the horse. A lot of people forget that. But on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, everything. Pretty much talking about everything from the Premier League to the Championship.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries.
𝗚𝗿𝗲𝗍𝗗𝗕